First, of course, ladies, gentlemen, good day to some good evening. I want to thank you for joining us at the first in line of Metos Notes and Google 2 webinars. This new AgTech webinar series that we are launching will be happening once per month. We will tune in live, and of course, it is free of charge. Metos Knows and Google 2 presents a cooperation between Pestle Instruments, Metos subsidiaries, and industry partners. The main idea behind it is to share knowledge, introduce innovations, show what the technology can do, how it can help anybody involved in agriculture, and how to approach the technology more comfortably and with more confidence. Each month, the topic we choose will be relevant to what is currently going on the farm or in the field, to the operations that should not be forgotten, and will generally, of course, aspire to support the people in what they're doing. We hope we can provide relevant content and would also be happy to hear back from you on the things that we share and which topic you would be interested in and would like to discuss next. Without further ado, let's go to today's topic. As the season in the Northern Hemisphere is just around the corner, we want to start the webinar series with a general insight into how the year will go. Some of the questions we would like to answer are: what are some of the challenges farmers most often face in remote field monitoring? How can agriculture technology help farmers better plan the season? How do integrations make really powerful decision support tools? Which important aspects of field monitoring are most often overlooked? And what is the future of remote field monitoring and agricultural technology? Your host today will be an experienced agronomist with 10 plus years experience in the field, the creator of the United We Ag podcast, and our Metos USA key account manager, Derek Brazda. Before I give the word to Derek, I kindly ask you all to keep your cameras and microphones turned off. If any questions arise, just write them down in the chat and Derek will go through them in the Q&A section of the webinar. And this is from my side. Derek, the platform is yours.
Thank you very much, Neja. Everybody can hear me decent as well? Just nod. Yep. Okay, great. So yeah, thank you very much, Neja, for the introduction. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Those of you who follow Metos should know our first guest today. Guy Ash has been he's been a recurring guest on my podcast. He's always entertaining and informative. As the country manager for Metos Canada, Guy handles the day-to-day operations for that business unit, works directly with customers and distributors, and also as the global training leader for Pestle Instruments, he creates much of the digital training content that you see. When he's not tirelessly working on our e-learning platform, he's a resource for anyone within the Metos team for just about anything. I'm also very excited to introduce our other guest today, Ms. Tanya Folnovich, Customer Service Team Lead for Agrivi. Tanya's day-to-day responsibilities include working with Agrivi end users, giving her a clear understanding of what are the ground-level struggles when it comes to on-farm data analysis. She helps growers monitor their personal goals and successes using the Agrivi platform, which we will go through a little bit later in this presentation. So Guy, Tanya, thank you so much for being here to join us today.
Thank you, Derek.
Tanya, I think you might be muted.
Thank you. Thank you.
There we go. How are you both doing today?
Well, we're a little cold. I'm a little cold in Canada. It's minus 30 here today.
Oof. Not that cold in Croatia, Tanya?
Well, now it is. I think that it's below zero probably. So yeah, but not so cold as in Canada.
Well, we're all in the same boat. We had a blizzard in Nebraska this week, so yeah. It's too cold to be outside, so we might as well be in here. So I want to go ahead and just get things started. And to kick it off, I've got a question for both of you, because this is kind of a buzzword. It gets thrown around the industry a lot. But in your words, what is IoT?
Oh, do you want me to go first, Tanya?
You can.
Yeah, IoT really stands for Internet of Things. And it is really about connecting devices to the internet, just like your smartphone is connected to the internet through cell towers, and those towers are really internet connections. The idea is to connect a lot of different devices to the internet to be able to monitor and react to problems and make decisions off of. So this can include things like soil moisture probes, weather stations, cameras, nutrient management, all kinds of devices. And it's just an explosive growth area that will continue to grow over the next 5 years and become extremely important in agriculture. That's my quick answer.
Tanya?
Yeah, actually, what I can say now, when Guy actually had this great introduction of what IoT is, actually, in my opinion, I think that IoT is a great revolution of technology that helps farmers get their various data, like remote data from the fields, to have them visible in one place, and that will allow them actually to do decisions based on data. And I think that this is the most important for farmers, especially for since it's still in some cases still farmers are doing on this traditional way farming, when they actually do all the activities and what should be done, like based on gut feeling. But with the actually expansion of these IoT things, with using various devices in fields and in farming overall, farmers will be able to actually do these decisions based on data. That is the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Making decisions off of what you're actually observing. So the way that we're going to do this is I've got it kind of split into two portions. Guy, we're going to go ahead and let you go first. So if you have a slide deck, go ahead and throw it up on the screen. We'll go through a little bit about Pessl Instruments and let Guy talk a little bit on IoT solutions. And then we'll kick things over to Tanya and let her kind of talk a little bit about Agrivi and what they're doing. So Guy, first thing right off, tell us a little bit about Pessl Instruments. How long have you been working in the IoT space?
Yeah, Pessl Instruments has been around quite a long time, 36 years plus now. We have worked in all aspects of IoT. We have a hardware manufacturing, we deal with the telecommunications and the software side, so quite a unique country. And over that period of time, we've deployed 55,000 IoT devices or stations, over 550,000 sensors, and we have affiliates, as you can see here, in a number of different countries throughout the world, and sales representatives as well in a number of different countries. So the company continues to grow rapidly because of IoT today and expanding into different markets throughout the world. In terms of our partners, we have an awful lot of different partners involved in and with Pessl, different companies in terms of interface partners that we work with, right from John Deere's, people like Exarvio, telecommunication partners, of course, because telecommunications is key in IoT, as we'll hear today, things like Vodafone or Nokia. Lots of sensor partners. We manufacture sensors, but as well we use some very top-end sensors that are available in the market, like from Aquacheck or Centec, as an example, and a lot of industry different partners on a very large scale, global scale, that we work with as well, and are involved in alliances with other people. That's just a quick overview.
Absolutely. And again, a reminder, I see questions popping in. Go ahead and as everybody's going through their presentation, go ahead and throw your questions in the comments. I'll keep track of them, and then towards the end, we'll kind of answer them all at once. So talking about IoT, what, in your opinion, Guy, and this was kind of brought up right at the beginning of the introduction, what are some of the challenges that growers face with remote monitoring in the field?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge question and a very important one. One is, I think this slide sums it up, there's a bit of data overload and confusion. I've talked to farmers that have 30, 40 different apps for all their problems, and that's very difficult to keep track of all that information and make decisions off of. So it's overwhelming. So who do I believe, right? And what do I need to do? So the future really is about a collection of data, IoT devices, and it can be a lot of different things, as we see, for animal welfare or weather or drones, plant sensors that provide insight. Take all that information, use AI, simplify it down so that I can make a decision off of it. Well, like a stoplight system, a green, yellow, red, no go to go. So the idea is to have a very comprehensive dashboard with mobile platforms that allows this type of decision making for an actionable item. It could be when to spray or when to seed, conditions for fertility. So today there's a lot of confusion on the volume of data that's being presented.
It's almost like just information arbitrage. There's too much coming at us, and a lot of it is, I mean, there's user defined, and there's also technical ground truth data, and how do you kind of bridge that gap? And I think one of the terms that you use a lot for specifically this topic, and PESTLE uses it a lot in their literature, is it's called the nested approach or a holistic approach. Could you explain to me what that means?
Sure thing. So it's not one device is going to solve your problem on a farm. It's a nested approach of sensors and tools that are collecting information that get processed through a very comprehensive dashboard. So nested means, yeah, I have a weather station like we see here on iMetos, but also I need to keep track of my assets. If I have seeders out or sprayers out, I need cameras to look at crops, insect traps for counting insects. I also need to look at soil moisture. I may have animal welfare systems or storage. So the point of all this is there's a whole host of things that need to be monitored on farm. It's not going to be one device. There's going to be multiple devices on farm. And we're just really beginning this, looking at the number of different options that are available. And it will continue to grow as new sensors and tools come online. So in order to manage the entire farm and fields, you will have multiple devices for different problems throughout your farm.
And essentially creating, what you would call a digital farm support system, more or less.
Yeah, I mean that's the key is you will have all these devices on your farm, whether you're monitoring for soil moisture or disease monitoring as an example, or nutrient management, or in storage. But eventually you're going to have a decision support system on your farm that allows you to connect your farm and minimize the amount of risk, reduce your risk, which ultimately returns a ROI, higher return on investment. And all that comes in by, interacting throughout the year, the entire year, through things like seeding or spraying or workforce, irrigation, disease, nutrient management. These are all things we do as we farm. We just want to manage them better with better information. So we manage better, we optimize our input, we reduce our risk, and it results in a higher ROI. Either you're saving time, you're increasing yield, increasing quality, less cost for application, those type of things. So it works into a digital farm support system that has a lot of tools that provide an actionable item to a decision farm support person, or ultimately the farmer. And the key is, this is done with boots on the ground. This is still traditional agronomy that has to be applied with digital tools to solve a solution.
Yeah, absolutely. And as somebody, who farms myself, when we talk about actionable tools, it's something where we're physically being pushed to either do something or not do something based off of the information. So whether that's the weather is conducive to a specific condition or not conducive, it alters what our day-to-day practice is based off of what you're observing. So it's all kind of big and encompassing from what I can gather. So one of the biggest things I hear about daily when I talk to customers, talk to distributors, talk to farmers in the field is it deals with communication. So how do your stations combat signal issues due to either lack of connectivity or really remote areas of the rural countryside?
Yeah, that's as I said at the beginning, connectivity and partners in that side is extremely important, because this is a stacked industry. In other words, all the pieces have to work to deliver the solution. And one of the most critical things is connectivity. So you've got to collect the data via your connection, whether you're connected through a GSM LTE type network, which is very traditional today, but there's lots of new platforms coming out for connectivity. We hear things like LoRa or Sigfox or narrowband IoT. So in most countries today, you hear a lot of the LoRa networks being deployed, or narrowband IoT or CAT-M, CAT-M1, those type of things. All these devices then need to connect some way. And to do that, they have to use one of these new means. What is the difference? LTE is meant for a bigger platform of data, things like camera, Whereas LoRa and NB-IoT is, low power, wide area network meant for smaller packets of data. You're not going to use camera products on that. You're not going to use autonomous vehicles on that. But these connectivities is what the providers, the telcos as I call it, are putting in place to be able to expand coverage for IoT agriculture applications and other applications in transportation and so forth. So there is a growing network. There is hope for better coverage in rural areas for connectivity.
Great. You just mentioned a couple of different things. Well, you mentioned a couple of actual different applications and physical products. So I kind of want to jump into that. Can you tell me, what are the different applications and products that can be used on your farm?
Oh yeah, it's extensive today, and this list continues to grow. So this is a slide that just shows the amount of different hardware options and decision support systems that are available in the Metos family of tools that are there. So you can have IoT devices monitoring for diseases or soil, camera products is talked about, virtual data, trackers for looking at spray coverage and asset management, a new platform within Field Climate called FarmView, which is a geospatial engine, which allows the integration of point data from the sensors into a field and satellite data, to make things like decisions on zonation for fertility, to very sophisticated forecasting to the individual point. We even have devices like our mobile lab to measure the chemistry within a field so that you can make adjustments on the fly for fertility or quality things. So there's a whole host of different things. There are a whole bunch of standard type devices from our NB-IoT low-range to very complex LTE full weather stations that are available for the nested approach for agriculture. And each one of these has a specific application of where it can be used on farm. From a simple data packets, small packets, to much larger delivery of information on farm. And then you can, of course, connect different sensors to that. If you're interested in soil moisture, there's a whole host of different soil moisture type sensors that can be multiple in terms of what they measure, from things like moisture, temperature, salinity, to individual devices, to measurements along the entire probe. So that's just a quick run through.
Yeah, and what's important with having each of these is, the hardware part is nice and it's necessary, but there also has to be a software integration, just to kind of tie it together, right?
Absolutely. Number one is the value proposition. The hardware collects the data. The data has to go into an engine, as we talked about, a dashboard that gives you an actionable item to a problem. So, we know that it's too windy for spraying, or what's my growing degree days, or is there frost, or what are my soil moisture levels. So all that has to be put into some type of tool that allows you to quickly and easily see that, or set some actionable alert off of it. So over here we have our device. We may be looking at soil moisture, where here we're putting on too much water too often, and then we look and say, okay, we need to be between the green line here, and we extend out the amount of water when it's applied, and we keep within the management zone. Or have a thing of, for example, a forecast looking at the ability to do tillage activities. So my forecast, my precision forecast, allows me hour by hour, color coded, as I said, like in a stoplight system, red being poor, green being high, to be able to actually do my tillage activity. So, there's a whole bunch of tools that come as a result of a connected field and collecting data. You can actually have the raw data that allows you to see lots of things, and then set lots of alerts off of that, things like frost alerts, wind gusts, moisture, delta T for spray applications. That comes directly from the weather station. Then it gets built into, of course, here's the alerting application, where you can actually set up an alert for a given parameter and be able to alert on a given variable that you want. So you could set delta T for spraying, the minimum threshold and a maximum threshold, have that sent to you, so on a particular field where you're not at, that the conditions for spraying in terms of wind speed and water droplet survivability are good or poor. That's an example.
Yeah, and I know you have many examples, and one that I kind of want to touch on, first, and I know we probably don't have time to go through every single one in your slide deck here, but I want to talk about site-specific weather forecasting and kind of the importance around that, because it's something as you get farther into rural areas where forecasts might not be available for your specific farm, but for an area that's 30, 40, 50 miles away. So can you talk a little bit about your what's the value proposition for that? That's
Sure thing. So the weather forecast, many of the operations on farm are driven by future planning and operations. So you need to have a weather forecast that's for your actual field. You don't need it at a town 30 or 40 miles away or 30 kilometers away. It's possible today with the technology because these forecasts are built off of the actual data from a station. So the station nudges and tunes the forecast. It updates hourly, not every 6 hours, and they actually are ensembled. It's not one forecast model, but a blend of forecast models. When you do all that, you get a very accurate site-specific forecast that can be built into a whole bunch of tools. Things like work planning tools, like when to spray. What's my fertility window look like? Can I work in the field? All these things are possible by having a site-specific, very accurate forecast, as shown here, with multiple outputs. That gets put into a number of tools. So simply put, we build in our partner, Meteo Blue, with our station data to produce an extremely accurate forecast in field for a given device. That's for the field and for that specific device. You can look at it in a desktop or on an iOS or Android type application. That then gets built into, we'll go through this, into a bunch of planning tools, which we want to know: timely fertilizer, optimum crop health, harvest conditions, all these things that we need. The only way we can do that is having that precision forecast for that given location. So at this point, you can actually then build in what we call work planning tools in field climate for a whole host of things. And these are just quickly things like plant nutrition, field accessibility, tillageability, the sowing window. So we're talking about the pre-season here. All these things are possible because now we have that precision forecast. What they do is they lay it out hour by hour, color-coded in a stoplight system with the forecast. So you can see your windows of when you should be doing things. So field accessibility here, you see poor conditions here during the early part and better conditions later on. I apologize, I have a dog barking here. And we then have decision work planning tools for the current field conditions of where that device is installed. So what we have is a value proposition for less risk and efficient management by having a very site-specific forecast built into work planning tools.
So the one that kind of jumps off the page at me is probably plant protection, just because chemistries and spray windows seems to be getting narrower and narrower every year, just with trying to get at some of these really tough to kill weeds, and having an hour by hour forecast of the week ahead of when is it going to be the right time to actually apply, for maximum efficiency, because spray is not a cheap input anymore. It's getting to be more of a expensive venture to try and manage some of these difficult weeds all over the world. So
so we do that as shown in this slide with the actual weather station, which can provide all the current conditions, including delta T, which is your survivability of your droplet, whether it'll crystallize and drift, or whether it'll stick and absorb by the plant. Two, built in the very specific forecast. When you combine that, you then have a plant protection window, and that breaks out into general to more specific crops as well. So here we see a color coding of when to spray and not to spray by the hour. You can see in red where it's indicating not, and where there's windows where it's good to spray. And it shows you those conditions. What's my wind gust, my humidity and temperature, which calculates into delta T for that given time. So there are very specific tools here because of the station in the field, the site-specific forecast, and then update that rapidly every hour out for the next 3 to 7 day window. That's an example for the plant protection.
Absolutely. Well, not that I want to rush you along, but I know that we've, Tanya's got some really interesting stuff to go through. So the last thing I kind of want to touch on with you is just a quick walkthrough of some of the camera products that are available. What is the kind of the value behind them? What are they really doing out there for growers in the field?
Yeah, so quickly on the camera stuff, we have the ability to use cameras to, one, take pictures. These are still pictures, it's not moving camera, so you have a wide angle lens and a zoom. Well, you can zoom in and look at the fertility, the emergence, disease issues right in the field, or have a wide angle view for development. So you can equate that to the growth stage and disease problems. The crop, these cameras are also built into the insect trap, or iScout, which takes a picture of the insect, and then there's artificial intelligence and software that helps do identification of that pest. So you can have then a picture taken a couple times a day of the insect or the crop, and you have actual conditions of what's happening with the crop, and if you have any population dynamics going on for a particular pest. So those camera products are very valuable. They're, I think, have a very good application in most crops, especially the iScout. We use a lot of the cameras in the fruit industry, looking at the size of the fruit because of, for harvesting, and the color of the fruit. So again, this is another IoT tool that's coming to market and has a fairly good application in a number of different crops.
Absolutely. Where do you see the future of this industry moving towards?
This slide kind of looks at the state of the union for it. I mean, there's a lot of growth going on. We're talking a lot on the smart crop monitoring. There's a lot on drones, livestock or animal welfare, autonomous vehicles, smart equipment. So there's quite a growth, as shown here, in billions of dollars GDP value going to happen over the next while. And sensors, there will be more and more sensors for more and more applications happen over the next while. We're just beginning this curve of being able to monitor. I see farms very much connected with numerous devices for all kinds of problems over the next while of growth. The key again is how it's disseminated in an actionable item and a simple way to look at the problem. We don't want to look at raw data. We want to look at a stoplight system for a particular action that we have to do.
Nice. Well, Guy, I always enjoy talking to you. I really appreciate it. Before you go, just kind of walk me through the e-learning portal, the training and certification that are available for both growers and dealers, so that when these get out into the field, technical questions can be answered quick and easy.
Yeah, we have an e-learning portal we built that allows you to go in and learn all these things. So we have a number of courses built with a number of short videos on every course. So you can log in, you get your password, and then it's your own learning path. So there's about today 14 different courses in there, including spray applications, how to look at an iScout, all the different devices we talked about. You can work at your own pace. There are modules under each one. There's questions throughout it, and then actually a certification exam at the end. So this is meant to help with the learning curve, as well as you understanding the technology so that it's better used, maintained, and looked after, and knowing the actual application for the different pieces of hardware and software that are available in the Metos family of tools. So this e-learning dashboard is available, and if you want more information, we can certainly share with you that in addition.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Guy, for all of that. I have seen one question about the presentations. The presentations, I believe, will be made available. This video of this webinar will be made available for people to watch after the fact. So we'll make sure that if you have any questions, you have the proper person to reach out to in your area to get them answered. So with that, I kind of want to switch things up. Tanya, are you ready?
I'm here. Yeah.
Excellent. So now we're going to switch back over to Tanya from Agrivi. And if you could, before we get started, just give us a brief introduction. Who is Agrivi? Where are you located? What do you do?
Sure. Well, Agrivi is a farm management company that was founded in 2013 in Croatia, small town Kutina. So we are globally present, and currently we do have offices in Romania, Poland, and UK. What we do, actually, we are developing software that is we are developing software that helps farmers to track all their activities in that are related to crop production, like activities in the field, finances, automatically given reports, analytics, and with the point to actually try to optimize their crop production, to actually help them to be more profitable and more productive, based on that actually they made decisions based on data.
Absolutely. So you work personally with growers with end users daily, correct?
Yes, this is correct. Yeah.
So just give me a rundown, walk through why is this information so crucial for farmers, for growers, anything, for any kind of growers? Why do they need this information?
Yeah, the point is that everything actually that farmers are doing, so all activities they are actually doing in the field is related to three big segments, as I would like to separate these, such as soil conditions, plant conditions, and weather conditions, of course. And these three segments are in correlation. And in order for farmer to be able to make a plan of all his activities, to actually know when to do and what to do, how to do, is it like the right timing, he needs to have insight into all these activities. And the point is that regarding soil and plants conditions, farmer cannot know what is happening inside each. He is not able to see. He is actually able to see what is happening with the plants when usually it's too late, when plants are showing some visible signs of damage or some stress. So actually, by using Agrivi in combination with various integrations that will actually allow gathering the data from various devices, we help farmers to make decisions on what to do and when to do, and that actually these decisions will be on time. And what is actually more important to emphasize that what they will achieve with doing on time decisions, actually doing all these activities that are related to crop productions on time. First, on one side, they will actually be able to make the optimization of their inputs. They will actually need to use less products, but that usage will gain to reach higher yield. That will be also healthy, secure yields. Also, on another way, they're protecting soil, they're protecting environment in terms of, let's say, using protection products or fertilizing. And what is actually the most important for farmers to emphasize, by having rational usage, they're actually they will gain higher and better yield, and on the other side, they will use less money. They will actually have a lower production cost. So actually, what we can conclude that by using all this data and actually giving a possibility to farmers to do decisions and plan their activities based on data, they will basically achieve two things that are most important for them: being profitable and being productive.
Absolutely. And Guy, Guy touched on this a little bit, the importance of having really good software, intuitive software that's not just you're not just staring at raw information. The information is provided to growers in a fashion that helps them to actually make the decision or drives that decision in one way or the other. So do you, if you want to go ahead and jump into it, we can take a look at what the platform looks like. And what I really want to do is kind of walk through the growing season. So, I want to see what's going on your end through planting, and then through the scouting and spraying times of the year, and into harvest and pruning. So I will say kind of the floor is yours. I'd like to see this in action.
Sure. Let me just, okay. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, I will show you an example of a few activities that are actually the most important activities that farmers are doing during the season, how they can make decisions based on data. Let's start first with the activity with the first activity that farmers are doing, and this is planting, actually sowing of their seed. So by having data from soil and also from the air, how they can use this data in terms of how and when to plan planting activity. Inside the soil, there are two important factors that are actually soil temperature and soil humidity. And when we are looking from the point of crop, every crop has specific actually optimum temperature for growth. So based on that data, actually having the insight into what is the exact soil temperature at a given moment, farmer has a possibility to actually predict when this temperature, when the soil temperature will be actually that temperature that under which his crop will be able to germinate. Because in case if he will maybe sow the seed in a soil that is too cold or even too warm for that given crop, either that crop won't germinate at all, or it will germinate, but it will affect on a yield, and he will actually gain much lower yield. Also, when we are looking at the air temperature, that is also very important to check for when to plan planting activity. Farmers really need to take care of to schedule a planting to avoid frost periods, and this is actually the great visual things when we, let's say, look at the graph regarding soil and air temperature. I will just remove that. So when a farmer has an insight like this to see in a certain period of time what is the actual flow of these temperatures, looking at soil temperature, so he can see when at what point, which moment soil will reach optimum temperature for plant germination, based on which he can actually schedule when he can plant, but also based on the air temperature, and in combination with dew point, he is actually able to see when this frost period will finish, because frost can be easily predicted based on dew point temperature when it's actually below zero during early spring, and also during the autumn period. There is actually high possibility of frost occurrence. So based on these data that are provided through devices from the soil, he is able to plan actually when to plant in order to gain high quality, healthy yield. When we are talking about spraying activity, that is actually related to scouting activity. When farmer has a need to do scouting, so he does not need to go to scout fields every day. What actually Agrivi can give him this valuable information are pest alarms, and these are alarms that are based on all this weather information, such as air temperature, air humidity, precipitation, also dew point temperature. These are all weather conditions under which certain diseases and insect pests occur. So when these conditions overlap with the conditions on farmer's field, Agrivi gives him alert like, okay, there is a prediction that certain pests will occur on your location, so you can go to scout your fields. And of course, after farmer scout his field, like what is happening, are there any visual signs of on the plants, or are there any insects present on the plants? He can actually plan, is the spraying necessary now, or he needs to go scout on another day, or maybe the day after, in order to be prepared to spray on time to protect his crops. Then another thing, also the same thing can be applied for fertilization activity. That is also that Guy mentioned previously, that when spraying and fertilization activity can be done, it's reflected on actually what are the weather conditions. So then we can go back to this graph where farmers can actually see, based on the certain period inside which they are looking at data, they can see actually what are the conditions for this certain period on this certain field, that they can actually plan what to do and when to do. Regarding harvesting, that is also great activity, great important activity for farmers, and how they can use this information from devices in order to actually plan when to harvest. So this is something that they can use by calculating growing degree days. Why is that important? And how it can be reflected to the final yield. So all farmers know that crop, when mature, crop can actually reach this physiological and technological maturity. And based on what is the final outcome of the crop, what is the purpose, either to go to processing or to actually be used in raw state, they know at what phenological state they need to harvest that crop. But how they will be able to actually know what is that phenological state? Of course, by having the insight into growing degree days that are actually showing the summary of all the temperatures that needs to be gathered for certain plant type in order to achieve a certain phenological state. Of course, that every crop is defined by a different set and different conditions, and also it's a different value for this growing degree days that needs to be achieved. However, at any time, farmer can actually see what is this total, what is the total amount of growing degree days accumulated during certain period. Let me just show you. So these are all based, of course, on the data that are given from the sensors. So at any time, based on what is the total amount of growing degree days that needs to be accumulated for a certain crop to reach certain stage of maturity, they can know how much still they how many days they need to wait for crop to achieve, also actually to accumulate this certain sum of temperatures. Similar thing can be related to pruning activity. So this is actually something that farmers are doing before season starts, and this is related to permanent, actually to fruit crops only, but also how they can predict when to prune. Actually, what is more important here, to plan this activity until when they can prune. How they can track this. Also, what is specific for fruit crops is that they need to go to certain dormancy period, meaning this is a period until when they need to accumulate certain amount of chill units. These are actually chill temperatures below zero or around zero. And based on having insight on what's the total amount of accumulated chill units at a certain time, a certain date, farmers can predict actually until when they can do this pruning activity, because after certain crop has accumulated this total amount of chill units needed for her to actually finish with the dormancy period, the crop will start with the vegetation. And all farmers who actually have fruits know that they need to finish the pruning until this period is done. Like this. So these are actually few examples that are related to the most important farm activities that farmers have a possibility to plan and actually to do these activities on time when it's needed, based on data that they have received.
Absolutely. I think both you and Guy had touched on it, and to kind of just elaborate, weather is the one factor in agriculture and farming that we have no control over as producers. And so we have control over what we plant, over what we fertilize, but weather is always the big question mark. And these tools, these IoT solutions empower growers to make the best decisions possible off of real ground truthed information. So to me, it's kind of a perfect example of how different IoT technologies can be integrated in throughout different software platforms and made into tools that provide actual actionable decisions and return on investments for growers. So in what ways will this partnership between Pessl and Agrivi bring more value into your platform?
Well, yeah, the first thing, and also something that I always want to emphasize, is that by having this integration, we allow farmers to gather this valuable information from soil and also weather conditions and plants that they cannot see nor predict, but that will help them to make decisions based on data. And also, since you have a lot of devices and also with the different purposes to gather different data, and you have in plan to develop constantly something new, I'm also looking forward to have all these things also in our application as well, to allow our farmers that they're able to make even more precise and accurate decisions.
Excellent. Was there any other features that you wanted to show off while you got the floor here?
Okay, sure. Why not? Well, I hope that on the call are all the farmers who are actually excited to use a certain farm management system as Agrivi. So sure, I can just give you a brief workaround that actually you have a possibility to check all the crops that you are growing, since it's related only to crop production, and having insights and various alarms about what you need to do and what is happening in your fields that are, of course, related to weather conditions and pest occurrence. That is the most important. However, there is a possibility to actually create various registries of resources such as people, machinery, fields, to manage inventory, actually to plan everything what needs to be done, and to check what was done in correlation with what was planned and what was done, but also what was used, which products, what was the let's say what was used in order to achieve certain yield for specific crop, but something that is more important for farmers to emphasize the cost. So farmers are able, by doing the registration of all activities that they're doing, they're actually able to check what is the total cost of production of certain crop, and they're able to analyze a specific part of production, actually, to see what is performing well and what is not performing so well in terms of which field or which crop, based on which they're able to actually okay, I need to choose here. Based on which they are able to plan what they need to what they need to improve for the next season in terms of can they achieve maybe better productivity of certain crop by using maybe less products, or by purchasing less products in order how they can be more profitable, but in return to actually use much more money for that production. So they actually have a bunch of possibility to track either profitability and productivity, and make decisions for the next season in order how to improve certain parts, actually certain production sites that are related to their crops.
Excellent. Well, I really appreciate that walkthrough, Tanya, that overview of all the different value propositions, for growers by Agrivi. Again, thank you, Guy, for going through your stuff as well. Basically, right now, I'm going to go through the questions that have been posted up here throughout the chat, and I know that there has been a little bit of conversation back and forth, so I'm going to try and hit the ones that are that I didn't see get answered. If you have a question, now is the time. Go ahead and throw it in there, and we'll get it to Guy and Tanya. And one of the first ones here, I know this kind of was answered. Do you have IoT stacks specifically for greenhouse farming?
Yeah, you want me to answer that?
Yeah.
Or is that? Well, we do have IoT devices that work within greenhouses. Our low-wrath products, which can measure both temperature, humidity, as well as moisture in pots, as an example. So the low-wrath technology would be used in greenhouse type applications.
And we kind of have specific product packages that fit very, very well in with greenhouses. And this, I guess, you answered it a little bit. You kind of answered it. What is the tie-in between Agrivi and Pessl? It's integrating sensors in to make the platform, more informative with ground truth information, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tanya.
Okay. Well, yeah, of course. As I mentioned, currently we have integrated some of your sensors. However, it's in our plan also to support as much as possible. Of course, the point is that we provide farmers all the data necessary for them to be able to actually work based on data.
Yeah, I think your platform is a really good thing of a whole holistic thing that farmers use, like cost of production and profitability, all that, which is tied to a whole bunch of things. We as Pessl provide the IoT devices for monitoring and some of the solutions, but we're not a platform that does what you do, the whole holistic thing the farmer is looking for in terms of cost of production and profitability, planning, all that type of thing. We're the sensor people, the IoT people, and the actionable tool people.
Excellent. I see NDVI tab on your website. Do you use satellite imagery? I believe this one is for you, Tanya.
Yes, we do use. Actually, if you want to, I can show you.
Sure.
Just a second to share the screen a bit. Oh my God, what is happening? Okay. Can you please wait a second if it's not a problem?
Yeah. While she's getting that her screen pulled up, I'll say, all right, one here. Here's one for you, Guy. 5G technology integrated into some of the sensory technology.
Yeah, I mean, 5G has a lot of bandwidth to it. You can move a lot of information, a lot of the autonomous stuff. A lot of the things that we're doing don't require that. That's why we use LoRa or NB-IoT. We low-powered, wide area network, small packets of data every so often. So we don't need that huge bandwidth for many of the things that we're doing. Camera products and ours would be your highest bandwidth for data push through. So maybe it could use some of the 5G technology for that. But up to now, it's been more the LTE for that type of thing. So we're not, nothing stopping us from going into 5G at all if we get into that type of stuff. But for what we do, LTE and then some of the narrowband LoRa, the Sigfox type networks are certainly more than enough. Plus the cost of those things are less for a plan when you talk about LTE or 5G per month.
Yeah, I think he was specifically interested in battery usage as well.
Yeah, I'm not the technical engineer on it. I'd have to go and dig into the specs, but you could probably use more batteries. I'm sure if you're communicating more often with the device, you're going to drain the battery more often, right? Ours are all solar powered and battery operated, so there is a whole conservation of power that has to go on for communication, and that's part of the what we do with the cameras to make sure we have enough energy to be able to send the pictures. So if you're in 5G, which is constant and requires more power and battery, then that changes the whole game of the technology we have.
Yeah. Another one for you here, Guy. Do your systems support control of automated applications like valves or pumps?
Yeah, we work with some different companies that are in that space heavily. We're not an automation in terms of, pumps and things. We do have pressure switches and things like that we can add into our system for looking at the flow and water. But we do have companies we do partner with that do a lot more of the automation side as well. And it's all about partnership in IoT too. Each company has their bread and butter of what they do and they're experts in. And so certainly within PESTEL, we bring in partners for different areas that we're not heavily involved in. Like, for example, some of the sensor stuff for probes for soil moisture, we're not manufacturing deep probes for soil moisture. We partner with people to do that.
On that note, here's another one. What type of soil moisture sensors do you think are the best? What depth do you think are the most important? And how many would you use per hectare?
Really depends on the crop, right? And what you're doing. I mean, if you're in fruits and shallow vegetables, you don't need deep sensors. You only need one or two. If you're talking a perennial forage or corn or an orchard, you might need a deep probe, one that measures down 120 or 150 centimeters. So it's really dependent upon the application. I think measuring soil moisture, temperature, and volumetric ion content is important because it lets you understand the complexity of what's going on under the soil through a profile. It's all about the rooting zone, what's occurring, right? Not just necessarily the whole profile, but the whole rooting zone. So knowing temperatures, knowing the amount of moisture at each area, if I'm pushing fertilizers, leaching them or building them up in layers, all that's very important.
Can I try now to share the screen if it's not a problem?
Yep, absolutely.
See if I will be able. It can. It says that it's error. But let me just. Can you see the screen?
No.
I'm not. No.
It's showing me error. Okay, just let's see.
It looks like there is a demo version
See?
available. Yeah, there we go. Now we're seeing.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we do have NDVI, and what is actually important to mention for NDVI that we are showing a few types of NDVI maps that are actually related to vitality map. So this is the one that you can see now. It's referring to like true NDVI. Are there on the field crop biomass or not? Meaning that dark green means there is a crop biomass, and yellowish to brownish means that there is no crop biomass, or that it can actually be related to, in that case, to empty field. How to analyze NDVI? It depends greatly on crop, like which crop you are actually growing on that field, and also what is the season actually, what is the phenophase of that crop. So let me just give you a short example. In this case, if this is let's say cereal field, let's say wheat, and this wheat needs to be let's say in a medium phase of crop vegetation, when plants needs to be healthy, green, there needs to be a bunch of plants. It means that the whole field needs to be colored in green, or light green to darker green. But in this case, let's say these yellowish and brownish parts, meaning that something is happening with that crop. Crop is suffering from certain kind of stress. But if, let's say, if you are seeing this, if you're seeing this picture of the field at the end of the vegetation of a wheat, when actually wheat needs to get mature to be ready for harvesting, this picture will show you that wheat is still not ready to be harvested, because there are still some crop biomass, because the whole field needs to be like this. yellowish and brownish. It means like okay, there is no crop biomass at all. There is no chlorophyll in the plants, and plant is ready for harvest. So how would you actually interpret that picture? Is it what you can see like this NDVI? Is it okay or not? Situation for your field. It depends greatly on which crop you're growing, and also what is the phenological phase of that crop. And below you can also see that chart overview of NDVI to see actually what is the seasonality of certain crop, when NDVI is actually getting higher, when it reaches its peak, and then when it drops down. Beside that vitality map through NDVI, there is also variations map that can give you more insight, like what is happening inside the field on the parts where you have identified as good or bad. So as you can see on that part, so meaning that the blue areas are actually marking areas in the field without any crop, or crop is like suffering real stress, while red areas meaning that vegetation is healthy and okay. So how you will interpret that field and that picture, of course, it greatly depends on crop type and phenological phase of that crop.
Excellent. Well, we have two more questions in the queue that I think are unanswered. First one for you, Tanya. What is the resolution accuracy of the NDVI image? What surface is 1 pixel?
10 meters, like 10 multiple 10. Yeah.
Okay. All right, and the last question, I think it's a good one to end on. I appreciate it, and this is for both of you. Knowing the Green Deal EU approach, how can Meadows and Agrivi contribute to decrease the carbon footprint and volume of agricultural chemicals used? I think the end all, it's in the approach, right? So it's in the systems approach. It's in the holistic view.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
No. But I just wanted to mention that every activity that farmer is doing is resulting in certain amount of carbon footprint. Really everything, because every time when they actually turn on the tractor and go to the field, even to do the scouting, they will actually contribute to that carbon footprint. So by doing what I previously mentioned, by doing all activities only when it's needed. So only when it's needed, not to just go to drive over the field or something, or spraying the field or spread the fertilizers, but by doing activities only when it's needed. On that way, they will also contribute to reduce this carbon footprint.
Yeah, that's the key. It's efficient management, right? We become very efficient and timely. The other is things like fertilizer. Fertilizers are, release nitrous oxide, which is very potent as a greenhouse gas. So knowing when to apply that fertilizer based on the optimum conditions in that soil becomes extremely important, because you're not losing that fertilizer to the environment, whether it's pollution or to the air. So there's very specific tools that can come in place here when you have IoT devices in a field.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I guess to just kind of close it, from all of us in the agricultural industry and those of us that actually farm as well, we're looking to be as efficient as possible. Margins are razor thin most years. And, we're looking for tools that can help us to not only be more efficient on our pocketbooks, but be more efficient and grow more crops with less input. So I think the entire process that we're talking about here, the nested approach to IoT monitoring solutions in your field, that is the plan. That's the process to decrease our carbon footprint as an industry in whole. So I would love to keep this going, but I think that we've kind of hit up against our time here. So thank you everybody again for joining. This is the first of what's going to be a really fun year of Meadows Knows and You Will Too webinars. Follow your local country's representation on social media. I know on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. There any information that you want to know about these products going forward, about these webinars going forward, make sure that you're following to get all the current information and what we'll have on the docket for you next. So with that, I thank you all for joining us today, and you all have a happy and safe rest of your week. And if you're starting to plant here pretty quick, be safe out there in the field.
Thank you, Derek.
Thank you, Derek, Tanya, Guy. It was very, very good, and I'm really looking forward to the next one. And of course, again, everyone who joined us, thank you. And as Derek said, follow us and keep in touch with what's new.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.